Who was Warren H. Knight? He was my grandfather. He was a big man with a big soul. He took care of us and made us feel safe. We called him Pawpaw, and he sure took care of us.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Somewhere halfway around the world on the little island of Corregidor in the Philippines, Private Warren H. Knight of the 60th Coast Artillery Regiment listened intently to the words of President Roosevelt.
When we read this letter, I guess I am and all of us are most moved by the line that says, I'm going to go out and see the world. I'm going to go, see what it's about, learn, live, have fun, experience. He did do all of those things, just not exactly the way he had hoped when he wrote those words.
The Japanese army launched an attack on the Philippines on December 8, 1941, the day following Roosevelt's speech. Without sufficient supplies and against all odds, American forces held their ground through 3 months of battle before General Edward King Jr. surrendered 75,000 men to the enemy.
I shout. Nothing is more certain than the ultimate reconquest and liberation from the enemy.
Though General MacArthur vowed to return for these soldiers, his return would prove too late for many men remaining on the island.
Well, that's when the letter stopped, and that's when the world lost its luster.
The Japanese began a crusade to round up every American and Filipino soldier on the island. They forced them to march 65 miles without food, water, or rest. Those who could not continue the march faced severe consequences at the hands of their captors.
And they beat us. They beat us with rifle butts. They beat us with sabers. They beat us with clubs and anything they could get their hands on.
Their goal was to move the captured soldiers from the town of Mariveles on the Bataan Peninsula, where my great-grandfather was stationed, north to San Fernando. From there, soldiers were packed into oven-like cattle cars and shipped to Camp O'Donnell. The level of brutality shown by the Japanese soldiers is very revealing. Surrender was seen as cowardly and dishonorable, and in their eyes, those who surrendered deserved treatment worse than animals. Those embarking on the death march did not know what they would be faced with at the end of the road. Though it is estimated that nearly 3,000 American and Filipino soldiers perished along the way, the exact numbers are unknown, and the worst was still to come. Conditions at Camp O'Donnell were horrendous. Though the Japanese had food stores nearby, they kept their prisoners on a subsistent diet and systematically worked to dehumanize them. Prisoners died rapidly in the camp from conditions ranging from starvation to disease to wounds caused by their captors. At one point, the death rate soared to 50 men per day.
By the grace of Almighty God, our forces stand again on Philippine soil.
In February of 1945, General MacArthur made good on his promise to return to liberate the Philippines. Emaciated soldiers were released from the life of suffering and injustice that they had endured for 4 years. Warren H. Knight was released from New Bilibid Prison, which functioned as a loading dock for hell ships to Japan. Had the liberation come any later, he may never have been found. He was found alongside soldiers and civilians alike. Women, children, young men who had grown old in 4 years, all listed on the liberation rosters. Could they all have wanted to see the world? Would they return home never to look back? Would they tell their families? During the war, my great-grandfather was tortured relentlessly. He was shot in both knees, had bamboo shoots stuffed beneath his fingernails, lost all of his teeth, and refused to eat rice another day in his life. He earned a Purple Heart, a Bronze Star, and a Silver Star for his service in World War II. Where some might have been understandably deterred from returning to the armed services, Warren joined the military police and continued to live through some of the most impactful events in history. He was stationed in Germany after the division of Berlin, and he served in the Korean War after that.
So are we proud of him? Yeah, we're proud of him. We know now exactly how proud we need to be. And we're honored to remember him. We're honored to have known him and to have become a part of him. And we hope to carry that forward for generations. He was a good man, and we loved him.